Hey, y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, as part of our Keeneland card series, we are going to analyze the late pick four for Thursday's card. And we're going to do this every day, as mentioned, for the Keeneland Spring Meet. Every day that there's racing, we'll try to analyze a betting opportunity and give you something to think about. So let's take a look at this sequence and see what we can come up with. The first leg of the late pick four is the sixth race at Keeneland. It is an allowance N1X for fillies and mares 4 years old and up. It is run on the turf at 1 1/8. And number one is Queen Judith. This one to me has had there's some concerns with this one. Wasn't doing too bad prior to the layoff, except for that last race, which was kind of a clunker, and then to the bench. So that, for quite some time, I might add, that's a bit of a concern. The other thing is, if you look at the work tab, there's some serious gaps in it for a horse that's been away for 4 months, actually 5. So I would definitely want to wait one and see before I use this horse. But class-wise, she probably stacks up, but I don't think she's in top form yet, and I'm going to wait one. Idacos, is a European import, and Graham Motion hasn't been doing so great with them lately, but this one might be different because first of all, you got Johnny V on, which you got to love. Second thing is this one has been running at a class level generally higher than what she would be running against today. The other thing is that one of the things I always look for is how much weight they're carrying. And you can see she has carried 135 pounds, 128. Those are certainly higher than the standard. And in each instance, she did pretty well. So that indicates to me that she was well thought of for these races. You can see one of them was a Class 3, the Turner's Fillies Handicap Stakes in September. She's run at the stakes level, Grade 3, and had done okay in some instances. And she's been in big fields. So I think this one could very well be a good fit here. And at 5 to 1, I think that's a pretty square price, and I would use this one certainly. Saki is coming off a long layoff, and closers off a long layoff always you tend to need one a little more than other styles of running. But this one, it came off. The last effort wasn't bad, but it's been a long layoff, and it's her debut at 4. So we really don't know if this one will build on what was a fairly decent 3-year-old campaign. Her last effort at Keeneland in the N1X level was pretty good. She made a pretty sustained run and just got out kicked in the end a little bit, but it certainly looked like something to build on. Then went to Turfway for the N1X. May have not liked synthetic as much, but ran an okay race, and but nothing to write home about. The tab does indicate that she's been running and is rounding into form, so that's a good sign. So this one maybe you use at 10 to 1. I think that's a pretty good price. Likely, I think this one would be more underneath, but if you want to put her on as a win candidate and pretty good odds, I wouldn't talk you out of it. Quality Star is going to need something to run to, and I don't know that she's going to get it here. She took quite a long time to break her maiden, but that seemed to be the trick, is once she did, she then ran a pretty good race in the Mrs. Revere where there wasn't a lot of pace to run to. Bubble Rock just got out and wired the field. So that was a pretty decent effort. Then went 1.25 miles at an optional N1X level at Turfway and didn't do bad either. And then went to the bench and has been there for 4 months. So we don't know what the deal is. I'm thinking that this one, she's only had 4 works. And for a horse that's been away for 4 months, I'd certainly want to see more than that, at least 5. So I have a feeling this one might be a little short. So I'm going to throw this one out, although I think, that this one would be a class fit, but for the long layoff, I think maybe just needs a race. So I'm not going to use. Implosion really isn't good enough. Just looks outclassed. Has had a couple of real clunkers at the N1X level, whether it be in California or the fairgrounds. John Sadler's a nice trainer, but I don't see much here to get excited about. And so I want to see how this one does. California shippers from Turf, the Dirt or Turf haven't been doing terribly well this year. And I don't see anything here to get excited about. So this one I'm not going to use. Precursory is kind of interesting. Third off the layoff, so third in the form cycle, and coming off a pretty nice effort at the N1X level. So this one's in good form, so you got to like that. Kind of interesting to me is that she broke her maiden on dirt, and then they immediately put her on turf at a route, and she didn't do bad. But then Belmont, I guess it was a private sale or whatnot, they just changed barns to Michael Tomlinson. He starts her on dirt, and then they switch her to turf. So just kind of a weird thing. Seems kind of odd for me. This one looks to be in good form, and I think that 15-1 is a square price, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't use this one, particularly when you consider some of the other contenders are looking like they need a race and aren't going to be on their best. So this might be a good instance where you get this one underneath and possibly a win if things break right. But I think this one's a use. Texas Shuffle, I was kind of salivating a little bit to get this one as a win candidate because of the early running style, but there are others in here that are, including the favorite, who I think kind of makes an effort to wire this field really an uphill battle. This is Shug McGahee and Luis Saez, and great connections, Joseph Allen. First race off the layoff wasn't too bad, but this one just looks like she can't get out of her own way. And even Shug McGahee has horses like that sometimes. And second off the layoff isn't a bad angle, but I'm not seeing that advancement in performance that tells me that this one is going to be prominent here, particularly when you consider she was a beaten favorite in her last race. So I'm not going to use Texas Shuffle. Hashtag winner has been interesting. She has been running at a better class level for 3 straight races. The problem is the race level has been a little subpar compared to here. Obviously, an N1X at Turfway is not quite the same level of an N1X at Keeneland. No offense to Turfway. So there's a little bit of a class hike here. This one has been doing well. But I think the buyers are a little light, and I could still, because some of the other horses in here look like they need a race, maybe this one can get up underneath. So I might think about, at 30-1, using this one underneath for your try or super. Not a win candidate, though, I don't think. Sweet Lady Ivanka is got Kenny McPeak and the A-Rider, Brian Hernandez Jr. aboard. And if you draw a line through the Mrs. Revere where she was running off Lasix, I think this one is a pretty good candidate to be involved here. Has come in second off the layoff, which is a pretty good angle. And the last race had to swing way wide and still was able to get up for place. So lost a ton of ground. I think that's a pretty good sign. Demonstrated last year that he is proficient on turf. So I think as a 4-year-old moving to turf for the first time, at 15-1, I think this is a good value play, and I would consider using this one as a win candidate. Colonel ABB, I just don't think is good enough. She's been running mostly at Indiana Grand, and that's not Keeneland. And has been running at the claiming level a few times, so that shows me they don't have a lot of faith in this one to begin with. So I would likely just toss this one. Diamond Heads is a pretty deserving favorite. The buyers of the last 3 in particular tower over this field. She does tend to give up the lead a little bit. She's been a beaten favorite a couple of times, but there's really not a challenge to her on the engine in this race, and she's got Rod Ortiz on her and trained by Todd Pletcher. So I think it's a pretty good bet. This one will be on the lead alone, and then likely would be pretty easy for her to wire the field. So you definitely want to use this one, but I want to have some defensive uses because it does, like I say, it does look like that she's not quite as resolute as I'd like to see running from the front end. But yeah, Diamond Head's a definite use as a win candidate. Sweepmaker, it just isn't good enough. I don't think that last maiden win, they had to drop her in class. or the level of class for the race was lower than previous. And when you see that they have to do that to get a win, it's not a good sign advancing against winners for the first time. So maybe this one will turn into something, being by Empire Maker, Giants Causeway underneath. It's pretty good pedigree, but it's a first turf too. And I just don't see it. So this one would be a toss. We do have some also eligibles, but they are for the main track only. The forecast for Keeneland is sunny on Thursday, so I doubt these ones will get to run. So let's take a look at the second race. The second leg of the Late Pick Four is the 7th at Keeneland, and it's a maiden special weight for 3-year-old fillies, and it's run on the dirt at 1 1/16 miles. So for a lot of these, it's going to be their first time around 2 turns. So we always want to think about that. Number 1 is Time to Race, and this is synthetic to dirt, which is an angle I always like, as we know. But one of the big problems with this one is really is very slow to get going. And certainly that becomes more of a liability when you switch to dirt. The buyers are a little light compared to some of the others. So this one, while I think is probably heading in the right direction, is not going to get there fast enough to be a factor in this race. Canthea is trained by Kenny McPeak. He's got his A-rider, Brian Hernandez, on him. The question I have about this one is Cantharos as the sire, more of a sprinter. Can get 2-turn horses, but not readily. So that's a question mark for me. Appears to be did pretty well in the last start. And, we know about Kenny McPeak. They're going to get better every single start. Whether or not that means a win here, I don't know. It was a little slow to get going, so definitely need to improve that in order to factor here. 7-2, I think, is a little short given this field, so I'm not going to use basically because I think the price is too short, and I have a couple of question marks. Lexa is trained by Whit Beckman, who used to be the head guy for Chad Brown, by Gunrunner, so you got to love that. You see the first effort in the slop wasn't so hot, and but this came back in a second effort, which was moved off the turf, and didn't do bad. Stayed up near the lead, but if that's the preferred running style, then I think this one may have some difficulty because there's others in here I think are better suited for it. So I really don't see enough here, coupled with the long layoff, that gets me real excited. This one could be any kind for sure, but I'm not willing to invest right now. Number 4 is Princess Cairo. She has been done pretty well. I mean, the last one I think we can forgive a little bit because it was in the slop, but has been around 2 turns a couple of times. That's more than you can say from a lot of this field, and has been on the engine both times. So we know what this one wants to do. There isn't a lot of other early pace in this race, and provided that she returns to maybe the form she had in her first start, then I think she would be a strong candidate to win here. So I think Princess Cairo is a use, particularly at 15-1, which I think is pretty good value. I had that one too, is another one with not a lot of early lick, and seems to do his best running or her best running late, and is improving a little bit, but really the big problem is the lack of early speed. This is a transition from synthetic to dirt, so perhaps there's better in the offing. But really the thing more than anything else is if you saw a running line where they looked like they were doing pretty well early and got tired, then you would think that moving to dirt would be a really good thing. But this one is kind of just slow to get going, and probably that's not going to change much moving to dirt. And that's my thinking about that. So that's why I don't think that this one is a viable use. Call Me Tony is another one who's a little late getting going, but is a little further ahead than some of the others. Has been making steady progress, and for that reason, I'm gonna use. You can see a steady improvement, and that alone is going to give me the impetus to put this one on. And if you can't, I don't want to have too many late runners on this ticket, but this one I think we could definitely use as a win candidate. Fearless Christie is trained by Matt Shire, who's kind of an under-radar guy. He's a good trainer, and this is the second start, which is a good angle for this one. Needs to break a little better, but I think this one's poised and ready to move up. You see that work tab, you got 3 bullets on it. And so I think that this one is definitely showing some talent. I think that 2 turns isn't going to be an issue. And at 20-1, I really love the value. So I think this one is a definite win candidate and we should use. Polita is going to require a little bit of leap of faith. Cherie DeVoe is a nice trainer. Second start is a good angle for her, and so is a layoff. But if you put the two together, it's not so great. It's only 12%. So we have to think about that. This one didn't show a whole lot of ability in the first one. Has a lot of siblings, including American Revolution, who are pretty good and were prominent. So, like I say, if you're going to use this one, it would be a leap of faith. And I don't think I'm willing to go there in this field, particularly at 12-1. So, Polita, it won't use. Soul Title is ready is by Dallas Stewart. If this was a big stakes day, I'd be more excited because that's when Dallas seems to bring his A game for the upsets. He's got the biscuit aboard this one. Really hasn't factored in any race. Has a couple of in-the-money finishes, but those are sort of the late running variety where you didn't factor at all in the race. So this one is improving a little bit at a time, but not enough to my liking, so I wouldn't use this one. Curl Girl is trained by Phil D'Amato. Interesting to have a runner of his on dirt. He is the turf trainer in California, as we know. He's got Flavian Pratt on this one and ships over. Apparently he must have some others running, so in stakes races, so he's brought them over. This one's on the right track. You can't deny. The first one wasn't so hot, but that second race was pretty impressive and got the career high buyer. Granted, it was around 1 turn, but this one's by Curlin with distorted humor underneath. 2 turns isn't going to be a problem whatsoever. And in Phil D'Amato's capable hands, he's good with a 61 to 180 layoff. So, and sprinter route shouldn't be an issue. So I like this one as a win candidate, and I think it's a deserving 9-5 favorite. Queen of the Rodeo is another one by Curlin. And trained by Ben Colebrook. Ben is not, while being a pretty good under-the-radar trainer, he is not good with horses going the first time around 2 turns in a maiden. He's over 17 for that matter. This one probably, is going to be pretty good. I mean, the work tab, you saw the last work a minute flat for 5 furlongs and a 48 before that. So those are pretty decent. But I just have a feeling this won't be the day that this one shines. So I'm not going to use. I think there's a little too much against this one. And Destined to Race, I just don't really see any improvement here. I think from 2 to 3, made a little bit of a jump, but seems to have stalled. And those last couple efforts I don't think are worthy of being considered a win candidate here. So Destined to Race, I'm not going to use. So let's take a look at the third leg. Race number 8 at Keeneland is an allowance N2X for 4-year-olds and up, run on the turf at 1 1/16. And number 1 is Verbal. He is the morning line favorite, and rightfully so. He's trained by Chad Brown. He's got a Rad Ortiz on him. That's a winning combination. He's got his last effort was in the Tampa Bay. That was a grade 3 at Tampa, and he didn't do bad. Running against Emmanuel was certainly a difficult proposition, so we're not going to hold that against him. He's been stakes placed and won the Cecil B. DeMille at Del Mar. So I think this one has the ability, and at 4 years old, he's clearly on the upswing, so I think he's a definite win candidate. Couple of justices kind of interesting. Conor Murphy is 2 for 5 with shippers to the U.S., and this one has some back class. You look, and First thing, as I've noted before, he's carried weight significantly many times and has won at 133, 131, 135, 134, 131. So this one has been a prominent player in many a race. I don't think the distance is going to be a problem. It never is for Europeans for the most part. And the tab is pretty decent. At 20-1, I think that's an outstanding value, and I think you have to use them for sure. Creed is trained by Shug McGahee, and this one, I think we know what this one is at this point. And he's competitive in this class, but he can't seem to be able to get over the hump. And he's had some pretty good efforts. The last couple weren't bad, but I just think he fits in the class. But I just think he's not going to get over the hump with some other more prominent players in here. So Creed is maybe you use him in the exotics if you like him, but I don't think he's a win candidate. Red Hornet, he's a cut below. Numbers wise, Byers, he really doesn't stack up. His record is kind of marginal over his last few starts, and I don't think he's a player in here. So maybe a little bit on the engine early, but I think we have other candidates to potentially wire the field in this one. So he's a toss. Script isn't bad. Grand Motion, Johnny Velasquez. He had good form prior to the freshening. I think he'll be primed for a good effort. Whether or not it's good enough to be competitive here, I don't know. He seems to be plateauing a little bit, buyers-wise, and his last two efforts in this class were out west, and you see the notes needed more both times. Well, being out west on the turf is chipping east usually means some difficulty. So this one I'm kind of on the fence with. I think maybe if you like him, you try to use him underneath at a price, but I don't think he's a win candidate. Point Me By is trained by Eddie Keeneland, and he's got Tyler Gaffalione on. This one's coming off a real long layoff. The question I have is he did pretty well in his last start, and yet he went right to the bench. And so that's always a bit of a concern. So we don't know what we're really going to get. The fact that they kept him at the N2X level, I think, is a good sign. He is 0 for 3 at Keeneland, so there's the possibility he just doesn't like the turf course. I think this one is a class fit to a degree. I just wonder. Got a couple of questions, and I just kind of like others better. So maybe you can use this one underneath if you like him. But I have enough questions that I would leave him off for our pick 4 ticket. Strong Quality is coming third off the layoff. So this is third into the form cycle. You can see the last two efforts have been getting progressively better. And the main thing is this one likes to run on the front end. And there really isn't a lot of early speed signed on for this race. So I think this one would be a very good candidate to potentially wire the field. Now, the connections are excellent. This one has passed conditions fairly readily and has been in the money throughout in every race of his career. So I think he's a logical placement on a ticket as to potentially wire the field. If you get 9-2, I think that's a pretty good value. Hidden Enemy is here's a novelty. Steve Asmussen on turf, which you don't see too often. But obviously, when you're sired by Galileo and you get Empire Maker underneath, that's where you're going to run. He's got Brian Hernandez on him, nice jockey. This one's been on the upswing the last couple. He's got a second and a first. It looks, this one is pretty consistent. You see, just likes to run that 83 buyer over and over again. I'm not sure that that's good enough here. This one is in good form. At 15-1, I think the better place to put this one is underneath in the exotics. But it's in good form, and it's third off the layoff. If you wanted to take a flyer and maybe spend a little extra to put him on the ticket for the upset, go ahead. I just think he's better suited for under. Excuse me. American Hero is just been off form. That last race was pretty dreadful on the dirt. Maybe going back to turf is going to help a little bit, but really, I don't think this one measures up to the better ones in here, and so I just don't think I'd use this one. Nautilus is a good race, bad race. Very inconsistent. Shipped in from South America to run the Breeders' Cup Turf here and didn't do very well at all. Excuse me. Came back to Turfway on the synthetic for a couple. Had one decent effort, one not so good. I certainly am not going to get behind a horse that's inconsistent, and I just can't use, bottom line. Hidden Stash has all the ability to win this race, but I just question the desire to win it. This one is kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. He has the class, he has the numbers, everything except the wins. And so he hasn't won in 2 years. But he, look at he's stakes placed, and there's just if he does put it together and it's second off the layoff, it's entirely possible. I think you absolutely have to use him. You're going to get 8-1, so you get rewarded for your faith. But I think you definitely put him on the ticket. February Sun, I really didn't see much here to get excited about. Most of his running's been done in Indiana, so at Indiana Grand, so class is a big question mark here. And there's just others I prefer in this race, so I'm not going to use. The also eligibles, very briefly, the one I thought the most of was Eyes on Target. He looks one that if he does get in this race, he has the speed and the back class to be competitive. Really the only one I think of. And as we noted, the weather forecast is good for Thursday. So Creative Minister is a main track only, and he probably won't get the chance to get in this race. So with that, we'll take a look at the last leg. The last leg of the Late Big Four is the 9th at Keeneland. It's a $20,000 claimer, N2L, 9-1-2 lifetime for 3-year-olds and up. It's run on the dirt at 1 mile and an eighth. The first contestant we have is number 1, Caballo Feliz. He's got Kenny McPeak trains him, and he's got Brian Hernandez on him. That's his A rider. This one rebounded really nicely from a first. His first time against winners was a bit of a dud, but he came back and rallied pretty well to get the W. And I think at a higher class level, that's a really good sign. It's more of a step aside, but he's dropping to 20, and I think he's a logical fit here, and he's a definite win candidate. Lord Donegal has no dirt for him, and coupled with that, he's trained by Brad Cox, and he's got Flavian Pratt on him. Would we normally be excited about that? Absolutely, if this wasn't a claiming race. You can see that this one took a couple of tries to break the maiden, but that was done on turf, and then ran in the Black Gold, which I'm not sure how good a stakes race that really was, but this one finished 6th with an uneventful race. And to go right from that into a $20,000 claimer is a big-time red flag. I think this horse is dressed up, particularly with no dirt for him, and I can't back him. And he may very well turn out to be a contender here, but I'm not going to back him. There's too many red flags. Rounder is 0 for on the dirt, the fast dirt, 0 for 12, and that's enough for me to toss. The lone win was in the slop, and we just have to pray for that for this one. Otherwise, I don't think this one is competitive whatsoever. Tuskegee Cat really doesn't have any dirt for him, and I'm just not willing to take a chance on a horse that hasn't run on dirt before. He wasn't bad on synthetic, wasn't bad on turf, I guess, but no idea how this one's going to be. I mean, Air Force Blue tends to be more on the turf side, I believe. So it's really hard to get a gauge of how this one's going to be on dirt, and so I'm not going to take the chance. Don't have enough. If I was to use it, I'd have to have a pretty good price. Work from home, this is one that looks better on all weather as opposed to dirt. You see, the dirt form took quite a long time in the maiden ranks. Finally, had to drop to a maiden 30, and then one on synthetic. So the dirt form really wasn't very good. Seemed to perk up on synthetic and did much better, which lends me to believe that that's a more preferable surface. So since we're back on dirt, I'm going to toss this one too. River Boy is his form has been declining over the last couple of races, and maybe he had a little bit of a freshening from his last start from the prior two back to this last one. It wasn't a starter allowance, so that's a bit of a class hike from where he is now. But it looks to me like they're not real confident on this one, and I haven't seen anything. Doesn't look like in the form wise that this one's ready to fire a big one. I don't know, but I just didn't see enough here. And at 6-1, I think that's an underlay, and so I'm not going to include this one either. Hello, McAfee again. Sorry, guys, trying to get rid of it. I'm working on it. Classic Mark is just broke his maiden, and it was in a maiden 15. And prior to that, there were quite a few efforts at the maiden level, so they've had to drop this one from a couple times in order to get the winner. And this is a fairly big class hike from Turfway to Keeneland, and it's changing surfaces again. It doesn't look like that would be too much. I mean, it might help a little bit. And the fact that this one has run at Keeneland before and a fairly decent effort. But I just like others better, really more than anything else. It's just, I could see using this one at 12-1. That's not a bad price, but I just think there's others more suited for this race. Write It on the Ice. The dirt form isn't very inspiring. And that's basically where it goes. And returning to all weather doesn't look like it would help any, because this one's a slow starter to begin with. And if that's the issue that's governing here, it's not going to improve moving to dirt if that's the way it runs. So he's at a disadvantage all the way. Does drop in class, comes from a 30,000, but you can see this one's run at lower class levels before without success. So I don't consider that to be a plus here, and I don't think this one is a win candidate. Nordic Light is kind of interesting. The biscuit on board. I think this one has the kind of style that usually does really well moving from synthetic to dirt. You can see he's up near the pace. He's a stalker, and you can see that he kind of fades late in the last couple of races. And he got a win. He broke his maiden at the nickel level. But you see they've moved him up in class a couple times, and he didn't do bad. But I think he's probably going to be better on dirt because of the way he runs, that he'll be on a surface that's more conducive to it. And at 12-1, I think he's worth a gander. You can see he sold at the Keeneland September sale for $310,000. So there were some expectations with this one, and I think he's improving. So I'm willing to take a shot with him and put him on the ticket and at a nice price. And if he pops from synthetic to dirt, we'll be rewarded. Mr. Booma he's also coming from synthetic, and I think that's going to improve his chances. You can see he likes to be on the front end, and there isn't a lot of early pace in this race. So I think those are two good things working in his favor. The other thing is he's dropping in class from 35 down to 20. And you can see, again, on the synthetic, that he was fading late. And that means he was up on the engine, which is a very tough thing to do on synthetic. And so I think his style will be more suitable for dirt. And so I think synth through dirt here is a good angle. He's got a little bit of back class. I mean, they had some faith in him. He was running in stakes at at 2 years old and 3. Granted, he didn't do terribly well, but I think that showed a little bit of confidence in what this one could do. So I think maybe there's still some upside with this one, and that's why I'm willing to take a chance with him. San Marcos City just broke his maiden and at a lower class level, and I'm not willing to take the chance first against winners, particularly from the 11 hole. So I'm going to toss this one. Bioka dropped to 7,500 just to get a good effort out of him, and he went back up to 15, and his last wasn't very promising. He's clearly takes his time getting out of the gate, and they're raising the class again with this one, and I'm not excited about this one's chances really, so I'm not going to use him either. So now let's take a look and see what our ticket looks like. So here's what our pick 4 ticket looks like. In the 6th, the first leg, we're going to use 2, 9, 11. In the 7th, 4, 6, 7, 10. In the 8th, 1, 2, 7, and 11. And in the 9th, we're going to use 1, 7, and 10. And I'm left you the option if you want to throw in the 9 Nordic Light for a little bit of value. You might have you can do so if you choose. In terms of keeping I think there's some good value on this ticket, by the way. I think we might be able to get some prices home. So our ticket size is 3 by 4 by 4 by 3. So that's 12 times 4 is 48 times 3 is 144 divided by 2. That's $72 pick 4 ticket. Because there is value, I think the added expense is worth it. And so we'll just have to see if it comes through. This is a pretty tough ticket. There's a lot of value to be had in this one, and I think there's a couple of races where it's not overly certain who's going to win it. So I think you've got a lot of options available to you, and hopefully analysis helps you formulate your own ticket. And but I think if you get the right prices in, that one could definitely pay out pretty well. If you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe. We will have more postings for the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday cards for this week at Keeneland, and we'll be continuing to do that as long as the meet goes on. We've got the Lexington Stakes, the last Derby prep of significance, coming up this weekend as well, so be on the lookout for that. And until then, best of luck with your wagering, and I'll talk to you soon.